Manga is North America's new favorite pastime. These Japanese comics have exploded in popularity, and everybody has started learning how to read from right to left. Even corporate stores from Indigo to Barnes & Noble have started stocking their shelves full of popular series like Demon Slayer and Jujutsu Kaisen. At the front of every store you'll see popular reads, and manga will be there, which is crazy. Sales have skyrocketed, and manga is finally becoming a respected medium. Heck, my college pop lit teacher, who looks like Santa Claus, brought up manga in our first class. Although we pronounced it manga, but I'll let it slide. Popularity had already been slowly growing throughout the 2010s, with series like Attack on Titan receiving plenty of attention on the internet. But it wasn't until 2021 when manga really blew up, seeing an astounding growth rate of 171%, and that's not even including sales from local comic book shops, meaning this number is likely even higher. But why did this happen? Well, to answer that, we need to go way back. Manga arrived in the West back in 1965 when Osamu Tezuka's Astro Boy was adapted and redrawn by an American. I think it's only fitting that the most famous and influential mangaka of all time received the first English adaptation. Tezuka created over 50 different manga series, spanning over 700 volumes and 170,000 pages, which is crazy in itself. Astro Boy, his most famous piece, is viewed as a cultural icon in Japan, but more importantly, helped familiarize the Western audience with Japanese media. Over the coming decades, several manga would be published in North America, including impactful titles such as Barefoot Gen and Battle of the Planets. However, it wasn't until the 1990s that Japanese comics really made their mark in the US. Viz Media, Dark Horse, and Tokyopop all began publishing popular Japanese manga series in the early 1990s. Titles like Ranma 1/2, Sailor Moon, and Akira saw huge swings in popularity and dominated the English market. American comic book readers had an entirely new form of graphic novel to obsess over and consume. But at this stage, manga was still an infant, and is a very small niche in North American culture, known only to the most hardcore comic book fans and to select groups of people heavily invested in Japanese culture. The 2000s changed things in a big way, specifically with the rise of the Big Three: Naruto, Bleach, and One Piece. 3 manga series which sat atop nearly every meaningful sales statistic for almost a decade, and reigned supreme in Shonen Jump, the best-selling manga magazine in all of Japan, consistently topping its weekly popularity rankings. This renown traveled west to growing fanbase and blossomed. Without widespread internet access, the diversity of anime and manga was very slim, so Western fans tended to gravitate more to popular series, which tended to be the battle shonen like the Big Three. If you met an anime or manga fan at this time, odds are their favorite series was Naruto, Bleach, or One Piece, and whether it was the wacky adventures of Luffy and crew as they traveled to the crazy world, the unique ninja fighting from Rock Lee vs. Gaara to Naruto and Sasuke, or the sheer coolness of Bleach's style and storytelling that just radiated early 2000s trends, the Big Three had something for everyone, and had lots of cool ideas that were very unfamiliar to the West. The nickname The Big Three was actually coined in America, a sign of respect to the series which defined many people's childhoods. Outside of the fabled Big Three, the early 2000s are seen by many as the first golden age to read manga. Titles were more diverse, relatively cheap, and most importantly, plentiful. Publishing companies began to translate far more niche manga, including a lot of shoujo, manga targeted towards young women, and slice-of-life series. Readers were thrilled to discover busier shelves with diverse titles and began scooping up new series left and right. However, a lot of these niche manga were, how do I say this, bad, and nobody was buying them. Publishers had spread themselves too thin by publishing all of these garbage and crappy manga that nobody wanted to read, and they tried to stop the bleeding in the worst way possible by taking some of these manga off the shelves. Fans that did buy these titles were upset because they'd invested a lot of money into collecting the series that just got discontinued. So why would you bother buying any copies at all if it was just going to get cancelled? It's important to note that the manga market, like most markets in 2007 and 2008, crashed pretty damn hard. But the writing was already on the wall, and the financial crash was the final dagger to a struggling industry. Companies began dropping like flies. Borders, Central Park Media, Tokyopop, and so many others you've never even heard of either ran out of money or stopped printing manga entirely. You ever wonder why so many series are impossible to find nowadays despite their popularity? Titles like GTO, Beck, Battle Royale that are huge in Japan, and some of my personal favorites are next to impossible to buy physically unless you're willing to spend a small fortune. These series were lost to companies who owned the rights and simply failed to print them before going under, which sucks, man. Now, let's jump ahead a few years to 2012, the supposed expiration year for Earth, and when manga had dropped over 43% in sales since 2007. Naysayers, like myself, believe the drop went past the poor economy and claimed the downfall was caused by publishers putting too much junk on the shelves. And when there's garbage like this, I kinda understand where they're coming from. But there was a light at the end of the tunnel, and an unexpected one at that. After the 2007 economic crisis, Japan was pinning much of its economic hope on exporting a surplus of Japanese media around the globe. Anime, music, video games, and most importantly to us, manga. Ignoring the obvious political implications of this strategy, it meant that the supply of manga flowing west was going to grow and stay for a long period of time. So, regardless of how poorly sales might have been at the time, they would naturally increase due to the high influx of manga coming from Japan. Naturally, throughout the 2010s, sales and popularity slowly increase. Series like Attack on Titan, One Punch Man, and Tokyo Ghoul were the talk of the town, and even non-Japanese media fans began showing some interest. More so in their respective anime adaptations, but the attention was still important. The key in this decade was new widespread accessibility through the internet. In 2014, Shueisha launched Shonen Jump Plus, a monthly subscription service with all of Shonen Jump's catalog and more. It featured manga with more adult material, containing depictions of sex and violence, and who doesn't like that? Fire Punch and World End's Harem in particular contained a surplus of graphic content that would have never been approved for the paperback version. Yeah, Fire Punch is really weird. Though exclusive to Japan, it wouldn't take long for the app to reach an international audience, so by the end of the decade, everyone had cheap access to thousands of manga at their fingertips. In 2019, over 60 unique titles have been serialized in Shonen Jump Plus, including stuff like Chainsaw Man, Fire Punch, like I'd previously mentioned, and Astro Lost in Space. The app was renamed to Manga Plus in the West. By this point, it had over 2.5 million active weekly users, and the app itself had been downloaded over 10 million times. Manga was exploding, but the true spike had yet to come. As we all know, the world shut down in 2020. People were sitting at home twiddling their thumbs all day, like myself, desperate for entertainment. So how did this affect manga? Well, to understand that, we need to start with streaming services. Why streaming services? Well, all the streaming services saw a huge surge in subscriber count, stuff like Netflix, Crave, and Amazon Prime. And this coincided with an effort to put more anime on streaming platforms, especially Netflix, who boasted popular titles like Death Note, Hunter x Hunter, and even One Piece, which blew my mind, all of which were adapted from an original source manga. This combined with widespread attention on social media apps like TikTok and Instagram really normalized Japanese media in our society. Suddenly, it was cool to like anime and manga. I can fondly remember walking downstairs one morning and catching my dad watching Attack on Titan. My mind was blown that I was able to have a conversation with my 50-year-old father about why Levi was a badass, or to theorize with him about what's going to happen in the final season. It was really a crazy worlds collide moment for me. Manga officially blew up in 2021. Words like explosive growth and unprecedented are being used to describe the trend. The chain reaction of streaming services to anime to manga resulted in a rapid growth of the manga market as a whole. Furthermore, with restrictions on in-person entertainment events like sports, concerts, movies, more and more people settled on just reading manga. New readers in particular were flocking to the medium, helping Attack on Titan Volume 1 become the best-selling manga of 2021, despite being almost 10 years old. The spike was so unprecedented that publishing companies were dealing with paper shortages, limited printing capacities, and other distribution problems. Does anyone remember in 2021 when Chainsaw Man was a hot commodity and it was rare to find physical copies in bookstores despite how popular it was? Well, this is why. Publishing companies were struggling to keep up with the supply when the demand was so huge. You walk into any decent-sized bookstore nowadays and Chainsaw Man will have nearly its own shelf, with multiple copies of each volume. Alongside physical productions, the online sphere grew exponentially. Apps piggybacking onto Manga Plus's success began to pop up seemingly out of nowhere. Bookwalker, Manga Planet, Azuki, and many others crawled out of the proverbial closet and gave readers even more platforms and opportunities to read their favorite graphic novels. So, we know the history. We know how manga became mainstream, but why specifically manga? Comic books are in the toilet, and novels have been read less than they have been in 30 years. Heck, in a world where people are just reading less, why has manga thrived? I think it comes down to two different things: accessibility and genre diversity. I've already talked at length about online accessibility through online reading apps, so I want to highlight price and convenience. The average manga volume is anywhere from 160 to 200 pages, priced at $10 to $14, an excellent ratio for any consumer. Additionally, for longer running series, volumes are available in box sets at a greater value. Some of these sets have reached over 20 volumes, like with One Piece and Bleach. Compare this to American comics, which have stagnated heavily over the past few decades. Each issue is around 24 pages, priced at around $4. So if we do some quick math, the equivalent cost of a comic volume would be somewhere around $30, nearly 3 times the price of manga. So for new readers, it's easier to purchase the more budget-friendly option. Another convenience for manga is the low barrier of entry. Aside from reading right to left, a mildly disorienting experience for first-time readers, manga is far easier to get into. Every series has a linear storytelling structure. Volume 1, then 2, then 3, and so on, so much so that any child could figure it out. It's a breath of fresh air compared to the countless reboots, multiverses, non-linear storytelling of American comics. Do you know how many authors have written a single series and just done different universes of it? I think that's just crazy. Manga is simply more convenient. Secondly, manga are very diverse, featuring tales from nearly every genre imaginable. Sure, the more popular series are still heroic action tales like the big 3, but slice of life, psychological, romance, historical, adventure, sports, and whatever this is, are mostly equal in terms of diversity. Look at any shelf and you'll probably find at least one volume from every genre imaginable. Now, not only is manga diverse, but innovative, creative, and revolutionary as well. Mangaka are not afraid to write about radical ideas that feel so removed from the predictability of Western media. It's easy to look at any of Tatsuki Fujimoto's works and wonder what on earth was going through his head, especially some of the stuff in Fire Punch. Oh my god, read the second half of that manga and you'll be bewildered. However, I want to draw attention to a different, rather underrated manga. After the body dies, the soul lives on. Sometimes these souls are sent back to the world of the living as guardian spirits for other living people. Lazy but intelligent spirit Fuji Rion is tasked with helping a troubled man, the Japanese Prime Minister, in the last year and a half of his life. The story that unfolds is an intense political drama mashed with the fantasy of guardian spirits and psychic powers. All the while, there's this mysterious presence lurking in the shadows of the opposing political party. What is he going to do? Is he going to survive? Is he going to do it? And it's fucking awesome. Manga doesn't conform to the societal norms of North America. It doesn't even care. The industry has its own set of values that makes every story feel like a breath of crisp morning air after living in a smog-filled city for months. Manga is, like the title of this video says, revolutionary. It's taken the West by storm and become something of a cultural phenomenon, alongside anime and Japanese games, of course. But the train is only going to keep moving. Manga is only getting better and better and better, so hop on while you can and catch the endings of some of the coolest stories imaginable. Stuff like Jujutsu Kaisen and One Piece are probably going to be ending in the next 2 years. Okay, we don't know about One Piece, but he said 5 years, we'll see. So if you're still watching this video, thank you. Consider liking the video or subscribing if you haven't already, and check out some of my other videos for more cool stories about manga and their creation. That's all for now. This is Belovies signing off.